All right, well, coming up next, it's Yarrow. He was just on yesterday. You guys will probably remember exactly. He's up there in Sonoma. He's also known as he also plays body double for the Florida Man every now and again. That's right, seventh generation cultivator and cannabis real estate. That's right, is none other than the Yarrow Kubrin.
Man, I'm gonna have
I
to
gave
work
you a
on
great
my
intro yesterday, Yara. I just gotta say that. Just gotta say that.
cross between Robert De Niro and Woody Allen. Gangster as fuck, but all up in his head. The motherfucking midget from West Sonoma County. Let's go. No, seriously, thank you for having me on again today. For the viewership tolerating me, and hopefully I've brought some levity to an otherwise crazy world. The article I'm going to read today is about. I'm keeping it international. I was so inspired by Luke yesterday. I'm keeping it international. So, without further ado, Australia and Israel, top destinations of Canadian medical cannabis exports. Australia and Israel were the top markets for Canada's medical cannabis exporters last year as the quantity of flower shipped overseas continued to surge, according to new figures shared by Health Canada with MJ Biz Daily. In April 2022 to March 2023 fiscal year, Canada's exports of medical marijuana flower were almost 60,000 kilograms, approximately 132,000 pounds, a 40% increase over the previous year's 40,000 kilograms. The vast majority of exports, however, went to only 3 countries, meaning exporters risk being dependent on a very small number of markets. Almost 80% went to Australia and Israel, which together were responsible for importing about 47,000 kilograms of Canadian flower. Germany was the next biggest importer, accounting for almost 10,000 kilograms, or approximately 16% of the total, according to the Health Canada data. Since 2017, Canada has exported 126,000 kilograms of medical cannabis flower for commercial and scientific use. In total, the value of Canada's medical cannabis exports last year increased to 160 million Canadian US dollars. That's 118 million US, about 50% more than the year before for fiscal 21 to 2022's total. Aurora Cannabis CEO Miguel Martin told MJ Biz in a phone interview he sees medical cannabis exports as a long-term play for his company. It's a big opportunity. The margins are 2.5 times what they are in Canadian rec and not declining, Martin noted, referring to Canada's recreational cannabis market. Australia, meanwhile, was the top importer of Canadian cannabis extracts. Among the top 5 importing companies, Australia accounted for 93% with almost 9,000 liters, or about 10,000 liters from medical cannabis extract products exported. The Cayman Islands was also second, receiving 320 liters of Canadian exports. Brazil, Barbados, and South Africa rounded out the top 5 last year with about 136 liters, 103 liters, and 90 liters respectively. Driving export growth. Some of the factors driving Canadian cannabis exports are increasingly higher quality products in the Canadian domestic market, which remains saturated with competition and oversupply. Higher margins overseas, in part because of excise levels in Canada. Fewer competitors capable of competing internationally given high barriers to entry in most of these markets. Aurora's Martin said part of what is driving exports higher is the good reputation of Canadian products overseas. That was hard to read. There's a lot of equity and credibility for Canadian medical cannabis products, he said, but the export market is getting more competitive with countries such as Colombia and Denmark aiming to grab more of Canada's share. Similarly, more nations have ambitions to be net exporters than there are countries with plans to import meaningful quantities, signaling competition in the import-export market will get more intense in coming years. Canadian licensed producers also risk becoming dependent on a handful of international markets where regulations can sometimes change with little to no warning. Martin said he's confident some import markets will open up as slow-moving regulations in some counties don't allow production to keep pace with demand. He pointed to Poland and the United Kingdom as nations with potential. Martin said regulatory certainty is an important factor. One of the things for us is we want to be in markets where the regulatory framework is predictable, even if it's slow. Citing the German opportunity, Martin said that gearing up for that is a way bigger opportunity than hoping and praying that something is going to happen in the Netherlands. Most importing countries require European Union good manufacturing practice. That's EU GMP certification or something similar, which is costly and takes time to achieve. One of the more finite resources that is really important out there is EU GMP flower. That's very expensive, very hard thing to do, and not a lot of people are doing it at scale, and all of those markets require it. When you see new markets come online, it's not just the size, it's who is capable of addressing it. As these markets come online, you're going to see the same winners, and they're usually multinationals. Export scene rising. Deepak Anand, principal of ASDA Consultancy Services in Surrey, British Columbia, suggested that the Canadian exports are gaining momentum in part because some of the countries that allow medical cannabis still don't have enough domestic product to match demand. Australia, he said, is licensing more cultivators, but not enough to meet domestic consumption in the regulated market, meaning imports will still need to be used to fill the gap. But he warns that recent regulatory changes are creating potential headwinds for prospective exporters to Australia. Starting in July, all imported medical cannabis products in Australia were required to comply with stricter import requirements. I think that will result in a little bit of limiting how much product actually is going to continue to go into Australia. Anand has his eye on Portugal, which he expects to increase imports. A lot of people are now exporting to Portugal, with the intended market being Germany. There's quite a bit of money on the table from a revenue standpoint for exports.